Hey everybody, welcome back to Absolutely Marvel and DC. I'm Dylan, that is Sal, and today we're going to be talking about Venom. Just Venom, not Venom Let There Be Carnage. We already talked about that, like 3 times now, so.
That's true.
I think this is probably the last time we're going to talk about Venom for a while. Probably.
You say that.
Until December?
Right.
I don't know.
So we've got at least a good month and a half before we can talk more about Venom.
But yeah, this time we're taking a trip down memory lane. As we did with Suicide Squad when The Suicide Squad came out. We're going to talk about Venom, the 2018 movie.
Simpler times.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, yeah, definitely simpler time. About 2 years before the world ended.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think about... Let's start with, like, what we thought about this movie when it came out.
Right. Well, I had always been against the release of this movie. I didn't even think it was ever going to actually happen. Like, I was, like, a good 70% sure we were never going to get, like, a live-action solo Venom movie from Sony, just because of the goings-on and the people involved. And the more and more I heard about it, the more and more I was like, this looks like a disaster. And... I waited. I didn't see it in theaters. I didn't see it on DVD. I waited for the longest time. I saw it on streaming. It was finally available on streaming. I watched it, probably 2019. And I gotta say, it's a movie.
Yeah, it's for sure a movie.
Like, it's not nearly as egregious as I thought it was going to be. Like, my expectations were completely subverted, let's say.
Mm-hmm. I think, like, I went on record back in 2018. I think the first video in November of 2018, I released a video every single day.
Right.
Trying to
revive
my channel. Yeah, didn't work.
No.
But I managed to do it. I released a video every day. But the first video I did was talking about why I hadn't seen Venom yet.
Right.
And I think I said something back then where I was like, I don't want to support Sony. I don't like this nonsense. And I'm like, yeah, sure. I guess that's fine. I think the real reason is just like I didn't care enough.
Yeah, it's a good combination for me.
I really paid $10 for that.
Yeah, I did not want to support a Sony Spider-Man Cinematic Universe because my thing was, if Sony had its druthers, like my issue was, if it was successful, then Sony will get too big for its britches and just go completely insane and think that they can do no wrong, as they often do, and then take Spider-Man back immediately. And by the way, It did, and they did for a second.
Yeah.
Like, so I wasn't wrong.
There was for sure probably a couple months there where behind the scenes Sony was like, oh yeah, we totally have Spider-Man back completely.
We've got it. We figured it out. Like, we've nailed it. We got the Venom movie going. That works. Okay, next up, Cardiac and Demo Goblin. And let's see, a Shriek movie and everything. Aunt May, Black Cat, Silver Sable. Let's do it all. Yeah.
Morbius. Oh, that one's happening.
Oh, wait, that movie got really made, and there is a mask. There's a Morbius mask at the Party City in my area. I was like,
oh, really?
That's Morbius. And not like, that looks like Morbius. Like, it looks kind of like Morbius, and then on the label is a picture of Morbius, the living vampire from the comics, and it's saying Morbius. Like, anybody is going to pull a Morbius mask off the shelf and go, I want to be Michael Morbius.
I want to be Morbius, the living vampire.
Not yet.
Yeah. So like back when I also waited till streaming,
nice.
to see it, and I think I watched it almost immediately. I don't actually know if that's true. I don't remember when I watched it, but
yeah.
I remember my impressions from seeing it for the first time. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. But like most, like going into the rewatch here, I definitely going into the rewatch, I remembered hating it a lot more than I do now having watched it.
Right.
After.
Okay.
So I liked it more.
Yeah,
watching it in 2021.
That's fair. I think we're both in agreement on that. I liked it more. I liked it fine when it was streaming. I was like, it was for me. I was like, this looks really dumb, but it has a structure. And it has a character who is a protagonist, and they're doing the movie thing. They got the girl, they got the romance, they got the thing you want to see, they have the villain, they got the kind of like almost pseudo-intellectual subplot, like the theme of the movie, like they've got all the things that you need to make a movie. And Venom looks pretty rad.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's pretty rad to see Venom done by someone who genuinely wants to make a Venom movie, as opposed to, like, Raimi, who was like, I don't like this character, I don't want to put him in the movie, make him look as ass as possible.
Yeah, this was Vulture up until 2 seconds before we started filming.
Right.
Yeah, so I agree, he looks good in this movie, and I think the problem with this movie, and I think similarly with Let There Be Carnage, because I watched this the day before I saw Let There Be Carnage.
Yes, you did.
But now we have, like, the kind of, hindsight stuff about it. But both of the movies have, like, really good elements that are kind of buried by studio stuff.
Right.
I think Carnage less so. But this one for sure, like Tom Hardy's really good. He's really funny. Like Act 1.
Right.
For the, like, honestly, before he and Venom meet, that's like a good, like, I'd watch that.
He has a character. Like, what's interesting is if you compare this to Let There Be Carnage, they're two different movies. Like, and when I say that, I mean, like, there's someone in the comments that's going to say, like, last time I checked, Venom and Let There Be Carnage are two different movies. Yeah, no, but, like, they are they're almost two different universes. Like, it's like they waited 10 years to make Let There Be Carnage. Like, they're so different. And one of the big things for me was the Eddie Brock character. Eddie was a character in the first one, and in the second one, he's, like, barely a footnote. Like, he does stuff, but there's no good reason for it. Like, Venom refers to him as a loser a lot, and it's like, no, that's the first movie. The first movie, he's a loser. The second movie, he's just kind of, like, hanging out. Like, he's a loser, but in a very different way.
Yeah, and I think a lot, like, that loser stuff is one of probably my main criticism of the movie. Like dusting off all of the, like, obviously Act 3 has the big explosion fight.
Yep.
Who cares?
Right.
All of the romance stuff and all the stuff that, like, really isn't important to the movie. But, like, the main criticism of the relationship that I have between Venom and Eddie,
right,
or just Venom's characterization as a whole, is, like, all the stuff they made up, and, like, a lot of the dialogue that Venom has, like, where he's talking about how he was a loser on his planet, and and it's just weird. It's very not
weird.
Good.
No, it's not. No, any of the stuff that, like, Venom, because they're still kind of getting their sea legs. Like, you can tell with Let There Be Carnage, they have figured it out. They think they figured out Venom. They're like, we've got him now. In the first one, they're like, I don't even know. Like, they want to make a Venom movie so bad, but they don't, like, know how to tell a story. But they're a movie studio, so they know how to make a movie. Like, we know how to make a movie with, like, all these elements that make a movie. Like, if you take Venom out of the movie and you just have Eddie get bitten by a radioactive something, you still have a movie.
Right.
You almost don't even need symbiotes in it, despite the fact that symbiotes are the linchpin of the movie. And with Let There Be Carnage, like, they've figured it out. But with this one, it's interesting because it's like, it's a work in progress. Because they throw away a lot of those elements from the first one in the second one. In the first one, you're like, like this, there's a real... Eddie needs, like, Venom's approval for Annie. Like, Venom likes Annie too, and you're like...
Which is strange.
What is this?
Why?
Like, where's this going to go? And then in Let There Be Carnage, like, nowhere. But, there's a lot going on. You could tell also by, like, the end of Venom, they were like... I was... Again, like 70% sure Anne wasn't going to even be in the second movie. Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that, and I think I mentioned this in our talks about Let There Be Carnage, is I was surprised that they brought anything back from the first movie.
Right? And those that did come back were, like, superficial at best.
Right. It was, like, not super necessary. They weren't super necessary to the first movie, and, like, by proxy aren't super necessary to the second.
Right.
But I think it's just the problem with, like, making a standalone Venom is you have to make things up, and it's difficult to do that because there's, like, so much with the character, especially because you make a standalone Venom in the Marvel Universe, and it's still set against the backdrop of the Marvel Universe, so you still have that history there, and you still have stuff that you can use that's just like, let's not show Spider-Man as much, but we know he's there somewhere. but like in
this
here
one,
they're
we don't
like,
even know
okay,
he exists. Like we don't even
yeah,
think he's real.
Spider-Man
in this
doesn't
universe.
happen.
yeah, he doesn't happen. Right. And what's funny is how because you've seen Sony make 2 different Venom universe movies, and in Spider-Man 3, for example, like the suit just shows up, and it's like, yeah,
Right, just
right,
out of
because like
nowhere.
we don't have any time, and really it's too complicated to create an origin. And with Venom 1, it's like, well, you could get into the nitty-gritty, but I don't even know if they had all of the Kate's stuff yet. So
No, it was just starting.
right, so they couldn't even be like, in the beginning there was no, like they could have actually
Right.
done all of that, and it would have been a little cleaner because it would have explained where Venom came from.
Yeah.
But in this, they were like, we have to explain Venom without Spider-Man, and we have to do it quickly and get people to forget about it immediately. And
Right.
that's why you get all this like Life Foundation stuff, and like, yeah, man, no one's really good in this movie. Like in Venom 1, like I feel bad because like, Tom Hardy is doing his thing and he's riding high.
Yeah.
It's 2018 Tom Hardy, he can do no wrong. Michelle Williams is like, I'm Kat. She was like, when she told people about what movie she was doing, she's like, I play the girl in a superhero movie. And I feel bad because like she doesn't get much to do, but she gets but she has a metric ton. She has like War and Peace compared to Let There Be Carnage. So I respect her effort. Riz Ahmed as Carlton Drake, Riot, anyone. Literally, you could have played any. You could have.
I liked him in certain scenes.
Yeah.
But towards the end, it's like,
he's
you're just a vessel for Riot at this point.
and
like,
Riot as a character / suit, lame. Like,
Yeah.
clearly just a budgetary decision. Because like you could have made it any of the other 5. Like you could have made it a woman, which would have been interesting. But you could have made it Lasher or Phage, and it's like, oh, it's like Carnage, but we're not quite at Carnage yet. Some kind of thing like that. But instead, they're like, it's just cheaper if we make bigger Venom. And they're like, okay,
Right.
let's just make bigger Venom.
Which that's another thing is like that whole third act and any of the stuff that they made up, it really does feel like they were on set and they were like, wait, why do Riot and Venom hate each other?
Right?
Oh, because Venom's a loser. That's why.
Yes.
Print that. Tell what's his face. Tell Lance Reddick to say that in the booth real quick.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah. I think there is a movie here, and seeing it again, I was like, it's fine. But in the context of Let There Be Carnage, which I don't like. Like I saw Venom 1 and I was like, like that's fine. Again, another movie not for me, but like, you know what? That technically existed. Let There Be Carnage, I was just upset like for most of the movie. I was just like, this is loud, this is obnoxious, this is like one-dimensional, it was like shallow. It just that they want to do things but for no reason or because they just want to do them as opposed to it servicing any kind of story. People are complaining at the end of Let There Be Carnage about like the sudden characterization of Cletus Cassidy, and I'm like, yeah, because the studio showed up and was like, this doesn't make any sense to me because it's not using all the familiar buzzwords that I'm familiar with. Like, yeah, no. Venom 1 is very much a studio picture.
Yeah.
You know what I
think
mean?
there's a lot of that in the like that's how villains are treated a lot these days, and I think there's studios don't want to burn characters. They don't want to show like complete
monsters,
villains. Yeah. And like there's also like the Thanos of it all is like everybody saw Infinity War and Endgame and were like, whoa, good villains with like 3 dimensions. And studios learned the wrong lesson is that they all have to be good people, which is like not the case.
Yeah, no, like like Incredibles 2, where it's like, this is really complicated, but like not for good reasons.
Yeah, and like the complexity of Thanos is that he thinks he's a good person.
That's all you need.
Right, like it's not like he's not. If you think about the redeeming qualities of Thanos for 2 seconds, he's a nightmare person still.
Ironically, he actually has less depth in the comics.
Yeah, 100%.
And I don't mean like now, because everyone's going, Tony Cates again, but like in the beginning, Jim Starlin, Thanos rules. That's it.
Right.
Like, he's great. He's smart. He's smarter than everybody else. He's better than everybody else. He's stronger than everybody else. He thinks he's right because he probably is right. Like, but only in his nihilistic perspective. Like, Thanos is sad in the movie. Like, Thanos' capabilities of being, like, you know, emotional. He's practically the protagonist of Infinity War.
Oh yeah, 100%. And that's such an interesting thing, and that movie did ridiculously well. So
you know what that was, though? That was
gonna...
them being like, we really have never really introduced Thanos. Like, we've only shown him. We need to make him the biggest bad in the Marvel universe in 10 years, and we need to introduce you to him and have you get him immediately. And we want you to care about, like, what he does and not be, like, resentful that he's doing it to your favorite characters. So let's make the movie about him. Whereas, most studios are like, I'm just making a superhero picture. Like, I'm making the Phantom. You know, the villain has to be, like, greedy and covetous. That's it. You know, and nowadays, like, it's been 20 years. Like, okay, now also they think there's someone in their lives they love. You know, like Lex Luthor, in every movie iteration, has a woman that he despises who is less intelligent than he is. At no point do you think, oh, he loves this woman. Now they're like, let's have the villain be in love.
Yeah.
And that'll be, like, the redeeming quality of that character.
Which is one, like, it's weird because the angle is, and we're kind of talking about Carnage more than we are.
I know, I'm sorry.
Point.
We can talk about Carlton Drake in a minute.
Sure. The angle that they're going for now is more like, let's add complexity to this character, not to fill them out as a three-dimensional character, but to redeem them, even though they're a villain. And it's like,
why?
You lost the plot there.
Why? Are you still going to kill them at the end? Like,
right. Which, like, bringing it back to Venom, like, that is, it's weird because Riot is like a Carlton Drake, and Riot is just like a bad dude, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, nothing has, like, redeeming qualities there because it's very clear that he, I don't know, is a really weird, just, like, kind of messily written villain.
Yes, he's very slipshod. Like, he is just, like, he's got all these trappings, but, like, you don't even ratchet them up to be cartoon or supervillain. Like, he's a business owner.
Right.
And he's a multi-billionaire, so it's like, oh, you could do something with that. And they don't, you know? And it's one of those things where there are a lot of movies made by Sony where instead of doing the thing you expect, they do nothing.
Right.
Right? Like, and it's just because they're doing Mad Libs. This is a Mad Libs movie.
Yeah, it's like he has a mustache but hasn't started twirling it quite yet.
Right. Well, it's like you'd expect him to twirl it, but instead he just won't.
He's not going to.
He's
going
not
to do
going
nothing to it.
And it's only because we didn't think of anything better for him to do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But villains have mustaches, so he must wear one. Like, that's Carlton Drake. Like, he obvious, and of course, like, having read Lethal Protector, like, Carlton Drake is an actual villain. He's one-dimensional himself, but, like, this Carlton Drake, this is just stock Hollywood trope. It's not really, like, even an adaptation of the Carlton Drake from the comic, who is, like, at the very least, evil. You know, you're like, ooh, he's a bad guy. This guy is like, I don't know. I feel like if he just had therapy, he'd be fine.
Right.
But then there's also, of course, the symbiote angle. Because, like, he also has some, like, cockamamie obsession with symbiotes. Like, they mean something to him. You remember, like, he's talking about, like, how they're, I don't know, they're, like, they give him some kind of immortality. He's looking for something with them. And it's like...
Yeah, he's trying to get to, like, space. He kind of reminds me of the guy they just created in the X-Men.
Yes.
Where...
Yeah, the guy who's like, I was making a thing
to go to Mars his whole life.
Yeah, and then they got there already, and he's like,
Come on.
Yeah, no, his motivations are really weird.
Yeah, it's strange. It's hard to parse, like, to the point where we both recently rewatched this movie and still can't, like...
I don't really know what his... I mean, like, and again, people can be like, oh, I know, and it's like, yeah, no, superficially, on paper, I know what his motivations are, but, like... They display a character, he's behaving in a certain way, he's making decisions based on those behaviors, they don't line up. But you could tell what did work, and what did work was Tom Hardy talking to himself.
Yeah, totally. That's like I said earlier, like, Act 1 of this movie I genuinely like.
Yeah.
And some of Act 2 I enjoy as well. Like the early interactions between Venom and Eddie are fun.
Yeah.
It just comes down to the dialogue for me.
Oh.
Like, I don't like a lot of the Venom's dialogue, but
I think it's better in this than it is in the second one.
really,
Yeah. Like Venom's
I'm not sure.
origins are terrible, but
yeah,
the way they talk, it's less like improv-y.
that's fair.
They the other thing that I will point out, the turd in the wind scene. Which was a joke.
what?
The turd in the wind scene.
I don't
the
remember
end.
that.
When Venom saves Mrs. Chen from the mob, or from the cashier robber.
Oh, right.
I'm gonna eat your face and your arms and your legs. You'll be rolling down the street. That was so like meme worthy when the trailer dropped, and you know, it's like the big moment at the end of the movie. It's like that moment where you're like, yeah, Venom, and it still plays well. I was like, this is kind of fun. Like, I wish there was more of that in either of those movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Just stupid. Like that. I think just more stupid, please.
Right. Well, like, just stupid Venom, though. Like, because Venom's miniseries were all very stupid.
Yeah.
And
that's the thing, too, is like Donny Cates' run is stupid, but it's well written and it's fun. And that's, I think, why people like it.
Right.
And it's just like he made up so much nonsense in that comic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of nonsense in this movie too, but it's like it's nonsense that takes itself too seriously. It's like Venom calls himself a loser, and it's not that he thinks he's a loser. That's an actual plot point as to why Riot hates him so much.
Right.
Because he's a loser. It's like, what?
Right. There's no, it doesn't work. But yeah, I wish there was more like actual comic, like Venom versus the cops. When he does the masks copy scene, I was like, this is kind of fun. Like, it's a little dark and not like tonally. I mean, visually, like you can't see because they're trying to hide the CG. But it works. I was like, this is kind of fun, you know. The scene where he actually says "so many snacks, so little time," which is an actual line from the comics. I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, for just a minute, you know, my 12-year-old self was like, it's pretty rad. It's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Seeing Venom, like seeing him like come over Tom Hardy's face and be Venom and say Venom stuff and have a different voice and have that voice kind of match. I was like, this is cool. There are like select moments where I'm like, all right, this is kind of cool. It doesn't save the movie, but like, I like it a damn sight better than the next one.
Right. Yeah, it's for sure a mixed bag. To end the discussion, do you like Carnage better or worse than this one?
No way.
No
way. I think the CG's better, and that's the only thing it has going for it. I think that like they could have made like Venom 1 just Let There Be Carnage. Like it could have just been that.
Yeah.
If you have like both elements squished together, where it's like you throw away all the Carlton Drake Light Foundation crap and you just make it like this dude gets a suit, it has an offspring. I don't have time to explain, but you got to fight him. You know, like because we only have 90 minutes. I think that would have been fine. I don't know. I don't care for Let There Be Carnage in it like much at all. And and this one at least, I think it's just because it respects like some level of structure. You know, it's just it's easier to follow and it's just less like what like baffling. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just I Sony desperately grasping for cash. I get that. I've seen that. I don't know what the hell 2 is doing.
That's fair.
How about you?
It was setting up for the future of Venom. That's what 2 is doing.
Is it? Like because it's
who knows?
But what are you? But what about you?
I don't know. I have a hard time because like my perfect Venom movie is the two of them squished together. That's not my perfect Venom movie, but like the ideal of these two is both of them together. I think I'm like almost 50-50. Like there's a lot of stuff I like about the first one, and there's a lot of stuff I like about the second one. But it's a toss up for me, honestly. Like like the entirety of Act 3 in the original is a drag.
Yeah, it is.
But there's not an entire act in Carnage that I'd hate. It's just all weird. So,
well, there's no...
I guess Carnage.
Right, fair enough. Okay. I will say Carnage is shorter, so it's got that.
It's easier to digest.
Yes.
And it's, for sure, which I think adds to it. But yeah, I think that's all we got to say about Venom.
Venom.
So
Yeah.
stay tuned to in December when we'll probably talk more about Venom.
Yep.
And
we'll
if there's
see him
nothing
again.
to talk about in December, then we'll make something up.
Oh, no doubt.
So anyway, this has been Absolutely Marvel in DC. I've been Dylan. That's been Sal. Stay tuned to the channel for more content coming at you real soon.